All right, excellent. Well, welcome everybody. I know we'll have a few more people sign on because we have a big group here. We have lots of coaches joining in, lots of different VIP small groups that we're combining because this is just such a great topic to cover. We're going to be talking with Sandi G today about metabolic adaptation. We're going to dive into reverse dieting. We're going to talk about what that is. And of course, Sandi, hopefully you're open to questions, but we'll have some questions at the end. So I wanted to go ahead and get started here. We'll make sure that we're on. And Sandi, if you could just start by maybe sharing a little bit about yourself. You are in the Faster Way to Fat Loss, but go ahead and tell us your experience and sort of what brought you to this place.
Okay, so I have been a personal trainer for going on 16 years. Much like most personal trainers, they probably started on their own fitness journey, which is how they became a personal trainer. So I had kids young, and I just realized the weight was not going to fall off, and I had to do something about it. So I started working out at home because back then there was no such thing as the Faster Way and online and all of those things. So I remember buying videos and doing them at home until I had enough confidence that I felt like I wanted to go to the gym and felt confident enough doing that. In that meantime, I kind of started playing with my nutrition, cleaning up what I was doing, and just over a course of my journey for about 2 to 3 years of where I started and where I ended, I fell in love with the process, and I fell in love with how lifting weights can totally change your body, how fixing your nutrition can transform you from one way to the other. And I wanted to be able to share that with other women. So long story short, I became a personal trainer, and about 10 years ago, again, after a different journey, I had been competing and I had ruined my metabolism by doing a lot of cardio, not eating enough, and I had to retrain my metabolism, and I got into tracking macros and how that totally fixed my body. Found Amanda through her agency program when she was helping other trainers take their business online. Took that course from her, obviously was following her on Facebook and Instagram, and she started talking about what is now the Faster Way. At that time, it was some really long name. I don't even remember what the heck she called it, but it was really long. And I was intrigued because it was based off nutrition. It was exercise, but it incorporated intermittent fasting, which I had never heard of. Well, I've heard of, but never done it. And I was like, okay, let me try this. And after about 2 weeks, I knew I wanted to be a coach because the basis of it was nutrition and working out, and something that has been my passion. And just having other little pieces to the puzzle made it a game changer for me. And yeah, and then they asked me to be one of the head trainers. I think it's probably 2 years now. So we've been doing this for about 2 years.
Wow. So your experience in competition, I mean, tell us how that is different from what you are doing now with the Faster Way to Fat Loss. Like as far as your eating, as far as your nutrition is concerned, what are some of the big differences between getting ready for competition and now maintaining, or I don't know if you're in weight loss or maintenance mode or where you're at?
So there's a huge difference. One, it can be done healthily. You have to find the right coach. But at that time, I was not with the right person, and it was drilled into my head, cardio, 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 2 hours of cardio a day, barely eating enough food. And then on top of that, strength training. So you get yourself into this adaptation of working so much and burning so much that when you come off of that plan, because that's only for a short time, that's 12 weeks. But when you come off of that 12 weeks, your body has no idea what to do, and you introduce normal food and it starts gaining weight, and you cannot control that. Well, years of doing that, because I competed for years, and my metabolism just went to the toilet. And so when I quit knowing that I wanted to be able to teach people how to compete and how to keep it healthy and not do what I did. And so then I did spend several years training clients using macros to compete. But it's totally different. And now I'm still able to stay a healthy version of lean, but eating a whole lot more and doing no cardio. So it's a huge difference.
Well, I think that's a really interesting point because, a lot of us come to the faster way having years of dieting, years of chronic under eating. I'm a dietitian, but I know that some of the protocols that I've worked on as a dietitian, maybe not in my own individual practice, but with doctors' offices, they want you on a 1,200 calorie diet.
I talk to people every day who doctors still tell them that.
All the time. And, I've struggled with that. I had somebody yesterday, not at a doctor's office, but somebody approached me and say, I've been on 800 calories a day and it's worked, but my hair is falling out. Right. So, you kind of hit this point where you can't go any lower. If you want to continue to see results, you can't cut any lower. Right. So, how do we get to the place where if we have been under eating, even at 1,200 or even 1,300 isn't enough for a lot of women, what do we do to sort of repair our metabolism and bring that calorie level back up? I know we're talking about calories. We think about macros in the faster way, but macros equals calories. So
I try to tell people that all the time.
Right.
You get your macros by your calories.
Right. So it's hard to get around the calorie concept. Yeah. But so how do you bring people back up? Is this reverse dieting when we're bringing people back up? Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So that is reverse dieting. So basically you think of a diet and you think of cutting calories. So a reverse diet is opposite of cutting calories. It's building your calories back up. So what happens, we join Faster Way, we sign up for that 6-week round, we are in a deficit. You are supposed to be in a deficit for that 6 weeks. Our bodies need to actually be eating more calories more times a year than it needs to be in a deficit. So you should probably only be doing some kind of deficit 2 at the most 3 times a year. And that's just kind of depending on how many weeks you do it. You can, people have decent willpower, they can go 6 weeks, medium willpower, 8 weeks. The most extreme, it should probably be 12 weeks, regardless if you've met your goal. Being in a deficit longer than 12 weeks is going to, again, what I had talked about earlier, just start chipping away at your metabolism. So even if you haven't met that goal at that 12 weeks, you want to start increasing your calories back up to a closer maintenance. So then next time you do another deficit where you had to go to 1,300 calories to lose some fat last time or weight last time, it might only look like 1,500 calories. And 1,500 calories is much less of a diet than 1,200 calories. And once you get to that 1,200 calories, you cannot go much lower because then you're talking about all kinds of other things that can happen. And then you're going to have to start increasing cardio, start working harder, start walking more. And the idea is to be able to do as least amount as you can and still burn fat.
Yeah, I love the idea. That's sorry if I'm echoing here, but that's my favorite part about this program is, I want you to be able to eat as much as possible and still be burning fat. So the goal is to be eating as much as possible and still be in that sweet spot, right? So a lot of people do get nervous when they see their calorie level and they're like, but in the past, I've always done 1200. I'm like, yeah, but you're here again, right? Like,
did it work the
did it
first
work?
time?
Because we're back to where we were before you did the 1200 before. So, you have to sort of forget that. And I know Peggy just asked, what is being in a deficit? So just to explain what a deficit is, that is when you're eating less than what your body needs for maintenance, right? Sandi, when you talk about deficit, it's less than what your body needs for maintenance.
Right. So I will tell everybody there's 3 ways to figure out your maintenance. And then you kind of take the average, because they're all going to have different numbers, but you kind of take the average of those 3, and that's your maintenance calories. So you can take your body weight and times it by 15. So that could be your maintenance calories. You can go to the Faster Weight app, and where it asks you to choose to lose, to gain, or to maintain, you put it on maintenance. See what those calories look like. Again, you can go to MyFitnessPal and switch it from your fat loss of 1 pound, a half a pound, or whatever you have it set to, and put it to maintenance and see what those calories are. Those are your maintenance calories. And so if you are eating 1,500 calories and your maintenance is 2,300, that's a huge deficit. And the longer that you stay at that 1,500, the slower you are chipping away at your metabolism, and your body's going to start to maintain there anyways. And so then your body is thinking, okay, well, she hasn't changed my macros. We are sitting here. This must be where she wants to maintain. So I'm going to start maintaining, because this is clearly where we're supposed to be. If you would have added some calories in, 100 calories, 200 calories, 5%, 3%, your body's like, oh, so I'm still supposed to be using this for energy and burning it. And guess what? You're going to be eating more and burning fat and starting to build muscle, because it's very hard to build true lean muscle when you're eating in such a deficit. Where you build muscle is when you're eating closer to those maintenance calories, because your body can use them for that purpose.
So do you think it's possible to burn fat and build muscle at the same time? Like, I mean, can you be in fat loss mode and muscle growth mode?
Slightly. You're going to have better results being at maintenance and fat burning, because again, the more you eat, the more muscle you start to build. The more muscle you have, the more fat you burn. So you can take somebody that is 150 pounds and on the heavier side, and somebody who's 150 pounds on the muscle lean side, and they are going to look completely different, even though they weigh the exact same amount, because fat takes up more room than lean muscle. So a lot of times people freak out when they don't see that number on the scale moving, but they're like, oh, but I've lost 3 pant sizes. Well, hello, that's because you are recompositioning your body. And that should be the goal, to be able to kind of maintain your weight, but still lose fat.
Yeah, I was one of those people, because I started the Faster Way January 2020. And in January 2021, I was the same weight, but even just comparing the photos, you could see the difference, and I can see the difference in my clothes. And so,
Yeah.
And I feel better. So for me, that's what I wanted. Those were my goals. But yeah, that number on the scale is always sort of, even, when we don't really want it to be about the number on the scale, it's been there because we've got decades of baggage that we're bringing with us, where this is what we've learned. And so it's a lot of that is the mindset and shifting away from that mindset.
And I like to tell people, I'm like, most people just pull that number out of their butt. There's no reason or rhyme. They're like, I want to be 125 pounds. I don't know why I want to be 125, but that's when I'm going to feel my absolute best. But I tell people, what do you have to do to be that 125? what extremes are you gonna have to do? What are you gonna have to cut out? What are you not gonna be able to do to be that number? What if 135 is your number, but you have much more freedom over here and you don't have to be as strict, but over here at 125, you are super strict on your macros. You can't even slip 2 grapes in your mouth. It's just super restrictive over here, but you look just as good over here.
Right. Yeah, it's about having those realistic expectations too. That's such a great point because it has to be about balance. It has to be about sustainability. Like whatever you do, and not one thing is not going to work for everybody. The same thing is not going to work for everybody. But no matter what you do, it has to be sustainable, and you will burn yourself out if you are eating at that deficit, if you are avoiding the 2 grapes, to have that number on the scale. You will burn yourself out and you're back to that yo-yo cycle. Okay, thinking about, you were talking about how we should really only be at a deficit for 12 weeks, right? Like, or no more than 12 weeks. Okay, so
Right.
a lot of us in the Faster Way, we start off at a deficit. We are at a ½ pound weight loss, maybe a pound or 2 pounds, depending on how much we have to lose. Should we be going up to that maintenance number then? If most of us are in VIP, there may be a couple still in the week 6 right now, but should we go up to maintenance at some point, or is a ½ pound, is that okay? Is that enough?
Right. So you can start there. So if you're at, let's say if you're at a pound, you can switch it to that ½ pound, and that's going to give you some macros. If you are already at that ½ pound, you need to kind of increase probably 3 to 5% of whatever your macros are. You can start small at 3%, then, several weeks down the road, 3 more percent, maybe 5%, but just slowly increasing to what your maintenance level is. Get at that maintenance level and hang out there for a while. And then when you have a summer shred, or there's a 6-week challenge in January, or you want to get in shape for a cruise that you are going on in 2 or 3 months, then you can bump those calories down a little. So at one point, your deficit was 1,400, but let's say you've worked up to your maintenance and your maintenance is 1,900. Well, now the next time that you're ready to kind of knock it down a little bit, you might only have to go to 1,800 calories, where that is not a diet. But every time you're going to that 1,400 calories, that 1,200 calories, 1,300 calories, that's a diet. So the higher you can get in that maintenance, the less you have to take away when you want to see a little bit more results the next time. And each time you do a fat loss phase, the least amount of calories you're going to have to take away.
Okay.
So you're going to have much more food freedom that way.
I think that's such a good point, because when we did the 6-week shred in January, I went down to 1,600 or maybe 1,500, and I could only do that for 3 weeks. I was like, that just was not enough for me. I could feel it. And I always tell people, if, again, to your point, if you're feeling badly at that level, then we need to bump it back up. This should not be about feeling badly and depriving yourself by any means. But
Right.
when we're at that higher level, what should we expect then? Should we just forget the scale? Are we going to see an increase on the scale? What are we going to see as we're reversing up?
So there could be a fluctuation. Let me be clear. You might gain a little bit of weight, but you're not going to gain fat. You might gain 2 or 3 pounds, but it's not going to be fat. It's going to be weight, from eating a little bit more food, but it will probably even out. I will tell you, in January, yes, I'm small, by the way, so don't compare your numbers to mine or anything. But in January, I went down, and it was horrible. I was at 1,480 or 1,460, and I was angry, a lot. And I did it because I did have I hadn't been in a deficit for, probably a year at that time. So I hung out there and I did it for 3 months. And in March, I slowly started to increase. But guess what happened? I am still down like 2 pounds. I'm down body fat, but I am eating 1,730 calories compared to 1,400 or 1,420 or whatever it was. But I'm still down almost 2 pounds. And I was eating so much less in January. And what that tells me is because I'm still down, I still have room to go up. So like every 3 to 4 weeks, I'm increasing my food. As long as I don't see a huge increase or my pants start to feel tight, I know that there's room to go.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked with people to bring up, I don't know what's going on with my sound. Sorry. I've worked with people to bring them up to maintenance because they've gotten to the place where they have met their goal and they want to be at maintenance. And, believe it or not, I've had problems like they continue to lose even as we're bringing it up.
Yeah.
So I've seen how that works. I mean, it does happen where you can continue to lose. And sometimes in order to lose, you need to go up.
Exactly.
And so that's why we have to be flexible with those numbers, with those macro numbers. We cannot, with all of these formulas, whether it's MyFitnessPal, whether you're using, faster weight calculator, any of the formulas, they're just formulas and they're going to give us a ballpark, but it does not take into consideration everything that's going on in your life, your stress level, your sleep, other factors that could have you hanging on to that fluff. We talk about just kind of being a little fluffy, and that those things don't factor in to these equations that we're doing. So you're going to have to figure out that number by experimenting and going up. Even if
and just not being scared. Like
you
should not be scared to like increase your food, because I'm not telling you to increase it to have 2 more treats a week, to have donuts and all. I'm simply saying add on to the whole food that you're already doing. So all those healthy whole foods, you shouldn't be scared to increase.
So what if somebody wanted to increase their calories or macros calories? Would you recommend just starting going up to like 30% protein? If they're at 25, could they adjust up their protein and then leave the carbs and fat alone, or do you do it across the board?
If you're at that 45, 25, 30, the first thing that I tell people, yes, let's get that protein up higher, because you do want that protein closer to your body weight in grams. But I would still also increase from there. Once you're kind of at that protein level where you're pretty close to eating your weight in grams of protein, at that point, you only have to up your fat and your carbs. So like I have my protein set at 130, which is well over what I weigh. So now when I increase, I only increase fat and I only increase carbs. I don't have to keep upping my protein to an astronomical amount because I'm getting what my body needs, but I'm going to start up in that fat and those carbs, because again, that's the energy, that's where you build that muscle, and you're already eating a good solid amount of protein. But if you're at like 100, 105, 110, and you weigh 130, 140, 150 pounds, you need to increase that protein as well as everything else.
Okay, that's good. I always recommend protein first, but you're right, the carbs and the fat need to be there. I mean, that is our fuel. So I think, okay, that's really good advice. Let's see here. We have a couple questions.
Okay.
Let's see here. So Stacy wants to know, so Stacy is a great example of somebody who has a thyroid condition.
Okay.
And so it's this constant balance between managing your thyroid and being in fat loss mode, right? When we dip too far down, we end up taxing our thyroid. Do you have any suggestions for fat loss with a thyroid condition?
So one, make sure that that split is on that 40, 30, 30, having that higher protein. If you are doing HIIT, I don't know, sometimes HIIT can kind of mess with the thyroid, so maybe switching to strength training. As far as nutrition, I know the thyroid is so finicky when it comes to nutrition. I mean, like, I have a friend who has thyroid who cannot have broccoli. I'm like, this is the most ridiculous thing that I've heard, but she cannot eat broccoli. So you have to do it super, super slow. Somebody like that, I mean, maybe 2%. Kind of really small increments and just kind of really paying attention. I don't recommend weighing yourself every single day because you're going to make yourself bananas. But when you increase, maybe you want to get that weight. So at least okay, well, this is what I weighed. When I increased. And when I go to increase again, so I know exactly kind of where I am. So it's not about being crazy and doing it every day. It's just kind of checkpoints, because again, you're working up to that maintenance, and the idea is to be able to maintain. So you want to make sure where you are set, you are maintaining.
Yeah, because if you're only going up 3 to 5% at a time, I mean, you're looking at such a small amount of food when it comes down to it. I mean,
it could be like a banana.
Yeah,
like a banana.
It's less than 100 calories, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I think, and several of those things are things that I know we've tried. So I think, yeah, the HIIT workout, I think, can be a little bit stressful, but it sounds like you can still go in, back and forth on, on those calories and the macros and support the thyroid.
Yeah.
Okay, so Krista says, I've been in a deficit since I started in January, but have weight to lose, haven't lost anything in a while, and is at 1670, and maintenance is now 2100. Okay, so what do you think, Sandi? What should she do?
Yeah, she should definitely be increasing. I mean, again, it also depends on, like, so when I talk to clients, it depends on your height, it depends on your weight, it depends on your activity level. But you haven't lost anything, you've been in a deficit. 1670, I don't know your height, but that is probably too low at this point, and it's time to start bumping up to get a little bit more fuel. So what happens is, again, your body becomes used to that. Yeah, you need to be eating more. So your body becomes used to that 1670. And if you are not increasing it, it starts to maintain. Now, the other thing that I do tell people is, one, you have to be really diligent of tracking, making sure that it is actually not moving because it's not moving, or it's not moving because it's something that you're doing. Are you tracking Monday through Friday but not on the weekends? Are you consuming too much alcohol? Are you tracking half the day and not all the day? Are you not tracking those bites, licks, nibbles? All of that will add up. So first, you have to be really consistent. If you are really consistent for 4 weeks and you're like, nope, it's not budging, it's time to increase. But I would say it's probably time for you to increase anyways.
Yeah, I mean, what do you recommend, Sandi, if you're starting off with the program, with the 6-week program, or even if you're in VIP now, and your needs are about 2,000. Let's just say that even like at a half pound, you might be a little bit higher. A lot of people get nervous when they see 2,000 calories, even for maintenance or half pound. Is there any reason why we should be wary of going over? I know Krista said her maintenance is 2,100, but is there any reason why we should not go above 2,000?
No, I mean, like, the normal diet is based off a 2,000 calorie diet. So, and that's a normal diet. That's not taking into consideration anything. So no, there is no reason. I will tell you, it will be ecstatic the second that I can get over 2,000 calories a day, and be able to eat that and maintain where I am. And there's a lot more freedom at 2,100 calories than there is at 1,600. There's a lot more being able to intuitively eat over here, because you might not have to track super, super diligent. I mean, I'll go have a handful of grapes now and I'm like, I'll guesstimate, but I'm not going to be to the gram, but when I'm in a deficit, I have to be to the gram to make sure that that's where I'm at. So you have a lot more freedom at this higher calorie level.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we all want. It's just having that freedom. At least, maybe that's just me, but I think a lot of people would like to have that freedom. And yeah, it comes with at a cost. You know, it takes some time to track. Tracking is one of those habits. I tell people you don't have to do it forever. You really don't. But as long as you have goals in mind, it is such a great self accountability tool. Knowing what you put in your mouth, being consistent, it forces you to make mindful decisions. You know, even just for the, even if you just tracked protein, you know, knowing that is going to be so key to your success. But it does require putting in that work, you know.
And I will tell people, I'm so honest with people when they ask me how long I've been tracking. I've been tracking for 10 years. You can look at MyFitnessPal and you can go back 10 years. I don't know if it goes back that far, but you can go back 10 years. You can go back to January. I'm not one of these people who says, oh yeah, I track macros. I track my macros. I track my macros in a deficit. I track them at maintenance because when I have a goal, I'm trying to reach up to something. So that gives me my goal. And I will tell you, it does get easier. You don't have to pre-log and pre-track. The better you get, you do start to feel that flexibility, and you can start to plug as you go, as you get better, and as you start to understand what truly is a fat, what truly is a carb and a protein, and not, and how you won't go over too much if you start to do it. A lot of people get frustrated and then they quit after that 6 weeks, and then it's hard to get back into that habit. But I've been doing it so long, it's almost like putting on my pants. If I don't do it, I feel like I've missed something.
That's such a great way to think about it. It is, it's just part of your routine. And I think a lot of people, at least in my VIP community, they have gotten to the point where, okay, maybe they didn't track, maybe they're on vacation and they tracked at the end of the day and they're like, man, I hit it. I still hit it. Even though I didn't track, I didn't plan it out, I still hit it because they know now what that serving of protein looks like. They know how much they're supposed to be eating of each macro, and it's much more doable. But, you know, I think as long as you still have these goals in mind, it is such a great tool. Real fast, I know we're coming up on time, and anybody who has questions, let's see here. I'm going to ask that question in just a sec, but Sandi, I was wondering if you could just talk about BMR, just share what is BMR and how do we use that when we're figuring out our needs?
Okay, so your BMR is your basal metabolic rate. Those are the calories your body needs to just open your eyes in bed, nothing else. You don't have to get off your couch. You don't have to get up. It's literally opening your eyes. That is how much calories you need. The goal would be able to continually, as we age, to keep that BMR as high as possible, because the higher your BMR is, the higher your metabolism is. The lower your BMR is, the slower your metabolism comes. So those people that are doing that 1,200, that 1,000, that 800 calories, they are slowly chipping away at their BMR, and their BMR is only 700 calories. And that is I'm not fat burning, I'm not doing anything. If you can keep your BMR to 13, 14, 1,500 calories, well, guess what? You get to eat more without doing hardly any work.
That's such a great point. So when we start to see things slow down, like the thyroid or the hair falling out, or, we're not losing weight and we're eating at our BMR or below our BMR, that's because your body is conserving. It's becoming more efficient, but that means it's not burning fat. It's just trying to survive over here. It's just like, okay, I need a little bit. I'm just going to let some of this hair go because, because I don't have the energy to keep doing that, to keep growing new hair. So that's why we have to stay above. We have to keep that BMR high, and we have to stay above it because we have our bodies need fuel. I mean, food is not the enemy. It is fueling a lot. A lot is going on in our bodies.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, people that tell me I'm not hungry, I'm like, that's not good. That is not a good sign. You should be eating. Every time you eat, you should be hungry in the next 2 to 3 hours. If you are not, that is a sign that your metabolism is starting to slow down. And the way you're going to fight that is increasing what you are already consuming, because by doing that, you are adding fuel to the gas tank, and you are going to light it up and it's going to be used. But if you just listen to your body in that way and say, oh, I'm not hungry, I'm not going to eat, you slowly chip away and your body doesn't need it. So it just stores it.
Yeah, we need that clean burning energy too, guys. No, don't go to junk to fuel it. Go to that clean burning energy. Okay, so yeah, Krista, to increase your calories, yeah, you can just start by increasing protein if you're not at 30%. I think that was what Sandi was saying.
Yeah, I would start at least by increasing your protein first, and then even in like a week to 2 weeks, I would start with the carbs. I mean, you can start and do all of it. I was just saying, once you get to like that body weight and protein, that's not necessary to up it at that point anymore. And then you can kind of focus on the fat and the carbs. But if you are just low in calories in general, I would be okay with increasing all of it.
Okay, cool. And is there a chart to show what our optimal weight should be?
I would say no, because, a chart doesn't tell you anything about your body. It doesn't tell you the muscle you have. It doesn't, that is going to be your perfect weight, is going to be where you feel the best. End of story. There's no chart. I mean, I wish doctors would throw away the charts that they use, because my husband is a pure example. He's 5'10", so he's kind of short, but his weight is 190 pounds. But if he was to go off the charts that the doctors tell him, he's obese. But he's not. He's not even close to obese. He just has a lot of muscle. But if he went off that chart, he should be like 165 pounds, and he would look like a string bean to me. So throw the charts away. Just go off of how you feel, the way you look, the way you carry yourself, the energy you have, the confidence you have, and you would feel so much better.
That's such a great thought. Just a great goal. And I would say too, you can always move the needle. You don't have to start off with this huge weight loss goal where you don't even know what that's like at that number. Again, if we're talking about the scale, because I know that some of you are thinking that, start with the body comp changes. Like Sandi said, we're focused on body composition, but if you have to have a number on the scale, just make it realistic. And you can always go, set a new goal once you get there. But often I find that people get to a number and they're like, oh, I kind of like this number. Like this is higher than I thought initially, but this is where I feel my best. And getting to that lower number isn't really necessary. And we don't know that until we're in that process and we're in the journey and we're stronger and we're lifting heavier and we're doing all these things. We're like, oh, well, that works out pretty well. So yeah, BMI is such a liar, Kelly. I agree. Yeah, same for my husband also. Throw out the scale. So let's see here. Renee, you said you're an undereater. So it has been helpful to monitor your protein. Yep, for sure. And then Stacy, to replace the HIIT days, do you recommend a specific strength plan on Mondays and Tuesdays? Now, what do you think, Sandi? What do you think she should do instead of HIIT?
Is that the thyroid?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So usually what we say is slow cardio. So not that, high intense cardio. So you're getting that same time, if that's walking on the treadmill, if that's walking your dog. Can you add strength training to it? Sure. You can go back through the app and maybe add on a booty challenge, maybe add on some abs, maybe add, kind of look at how you're going to put your week, and you can easily do a strength day instead of doing HIIT, and then just do some kind of walking to replace that HIIT.
Yeah, Stacy is super active. I can tell you that. She also walks 5 miles a day, and that's like a low number.
Then that's probably she doesn't need to do anything else, but she could add in if she wanted to do like another. I mean, we have that app that has all kinds of workouts in there. So you could go find a band workout. You could go find a booty challenge workout, just something where you're kind of feel like you're doing something, strengthening your muscles, because strength training is king and will always be king. So easily to go add in that if you're replacing the HIIT.
Yeah, that's a great idea. All right, guys, any other questions? Yeah, so Kelly, that's where you're at. You love where you feel. Yeah, you feel good where you are. Good. All right, guys, any other questions? Sandi, is there anything that we haven't covered that you think would be really helpful for this group?
No, I feel like we hit on the BMR, we hit on how to look at your maintenance. I would tell everybody, go look at your maintenance. If you're not at maintenance yet, just go check what that number is, because then that can be your goal to start increasing to get to. But make sure you take a screenshot of your macros so you don't accidentally change.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, because then you would be getting a lot of messages. But just make sure you know what your macros are, and then go check out what that maintenance should be, and you kind of average out the between the three, because again, it's a estimate, so it's kind of the best to take best of all three and kind of just see the average of where you fall. But I promise you're going to be surprised about how high that number is. And that, I would think, should be the people's main goals, is working up to that maintenance, getting out of that deficit and trying to give themselves a little bit more food freedom. And the other thing that I tell people, when you're working up to maintenance, and Faster Way has a 6-week challenge, but that moment is not your goal, don't feel like, okay, well, I'm not part of the Faster Way because I'm not doing everything that everybody is doing, because each person is individual and you have your own goals. So if right now you're not working in a fat loss phase, then you shouldn't feel guilty because you're trying to build up to your maintenance. And if you're building up to your maintenance, you don't need to be doing low macro days. You don't need to be taking calories away when you're trying to add them in. So like, I did the 6-week challenge, but I did not lower my calories. I actually increased the whole time. I did not do low macro days. I kept them regular. But what I did do was focus on those 6 weeks of true whole food. And that was the challenge for me. I skipped leg day treats for six weeks. That was my challenge. So like, kind of make your own goals and just don't feel like you have to do all parts of the Faster Way or it's not working for you, because you do have individuality and you do have different goals than everybody else.
Amen. Yeah, I skip the low macro as well. And I am very open with my group about like what I do and what I don't do and where I'm at. And I think that's the beauty of this program, is you can pick and choose the things that are really working for you right now. And if there's something that you're just really struggling with that's maybe not in the cards right now, you can just focus on what is possible. Don't focus on what you're not doing, really focus on what you are doing, and you're still part of the Faster Way. I think you hit the nail on the head, because I have some perfectionists. I'm a recovering perfectionist, but if you're not doing it like to the T, you're not doing it, and that's just not the way that this works. And that's the flexibility and the beauty of it. So we just really appreciate your time today, Sandi. This has been awesome. I know I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of people. We had a great group here today. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
And you guys feel free to follow me on Instagram at @sandigravette_. I always share tidbits of information. I'm always trying to get people to eat more. So
Yeah, you have a great feed. So it's very helpful to follow Sandi and just get that information from her. Great reminders that, we need to eat. So
and if y'all have any questions and you didn't ask them now and they send them to you and you want to ask me, feel free. That's totally
excellent.
fine.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's great. All right, everyone, take care. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you in our groups.
Bye.
Bye.